All right, guys, let's talk about how we do picture study in our Charlotte Mason homeschool. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm Laura Wilkie with Down Home with Lemon Pie. This is Homeschool Fellowship Friday, the day when I get to come to you guys with all things related to homeschool. And this week we are going to jump into picture study. I have never done a video on how we do picture study. Why? Because for a long time we were struggling with it. That is why. And now we have a good routine. It works beautifully. And I want to share with you guys what we do and what we also did in the past. It wasn't necessarily that we were struggling, but we just had some other things that we did, and I want to show you guys what we did as well, because some of those things were really good. I just really wasn't consistent with it because I wasn't confident in what we were doing. So that will be another video next week, so check that one out as well. But this week's video is going to be about picture study, how we do it in this currently. I have kiddos. I have 7 little ones. They range in age from 7th grade all the way down to my 2-year-old toddler who joins us. And it is very simple. It does not have to be a huge complicated ordeal. It can be a very simple, enjoyable time, especially and even if you don't know anything about these artists and you don't know anything about painting and so on. So I'm going to tell you guys what we do. First, I have like 8 steps here, guys. So the first thing we do is I choose artists. I choose artists based on generally 2 things. The first thing is the time period in history that we are studying. And the second thing is I do look at Ambleside online, which ones they have slated for that school year, because they have resources available for them that are free and easy to print. And it just is easy to see what they're using and to incorporate. So for this present school year, I did 2 artists that were from Ambleside's lessons, and then the last one I did not do because I didn't like the pictures and I wanted it to be time period specific with what we were studying, and that one was not even close. And so I chose a 3rd one just from looking online. So anyway, we do 3 terms in our homeschool, okay? We do 3 12-week terms in our Charlotte Mason homeschool, and this particular lesson on picture studies is always during our morning time period. So I have a video on our schedule. It's linked below if you want to see how that looks. But this is during our morning time of the morning. And that was kind of interesting to say it like that, but there you go. Anyway, so I choose one artist and we focus on one artist for 12 weeks. Okay, this is not like I thought going into this years ago that it was something that we were focusing on, okay? It is something that is present and that is touched on, is a better way of describing it. Okay, so then for each of those artists, I select 6 of their prints or pictures or paintings or however you want to phrase it, but 6 of their pieces of work. So I do one each for 2 weeks. Okay, so 1 picture for 2 weeks, and then that makes 6 for the 12 weeks. Okay, so 18 pictures for the whole school year, divided into 3 artists. Okay, so I select the pieces. Now this is an important part because it may be different for your homeschool. You may be wanting to pick popular pieces. You may want to pick pieces that are specific to things you're studying. Like if you're doing a study on animals, you might want to pick pictures of animals or whatever, and that's good. One thing that I want to caution you on is do not feel like you have to have the same standards for selecting the pieces of work as the world, because the world will show you all kinds of nude people in paintings, and I just don't want those in our home. I don't want to display them in my home. I don't want my kids looking at naked people all day long. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. So hanging up naked people in your house is weird. So we don't do that. So I am very selective in which pieces I pick. I do like to focus also on the artists. Well, let's get to that in a minute. Next, we take those pieces of work and we pick a place in our home that we want to display them. And I've done this a couple ways. I've done it where I just had like one of those lakeshore learning charts where it has the little plastic sleeves and you can just put them in. I've done it that way. Where I've done it where I've just taped it to a chalkboard. I have done it where I had a frame somewhere. I can't even remember where we had it located, but we had a framed, and I would just rotate the picture that was in that particular frame. I've had it where it was on our coffee table, and presently I have it hanging by our kitchen table. So, but you just pick a spot, and then that particular picture always changes every 2 weeks. So that's what we do. Okay. Then we learn about the artist's life. So I do this a little differently, a couple of different ways. Sometimes I will get a book on that artist, and we'll just read that book. Like I'll pick a day and we'll just read it. Sometimes that is more time consuming than I have time for, and I'll just print off like a short bio and we'll talk about it that way. Sometimes I will incorporate it because we do mystery of history, and some of those artists are included in our history book, so I will just read it as that lesson comes up. Just different ways. But I do like to try to touch on their faith or lack of faith, because I think that it speaks volumes in the art that they produce or produced, and the art that whether it was successful or not, and how they lived their life. I think it's just important to know that the ones that the world tells us are people that we should look to as prominent people in the art world, well, were they really Christians? Did they live a good, honorable life? Should we really be looking up to those particular people as our role models? So I just like to look at that and touch on it. The next thing you can study is where and when they lived. If they lived in a specific country, or they were a specific painter for perhaps of a specific country, so like maybe it was a French painter, maybe you want to spend some time studying France. Okay, I don't typically do this because I don't have a lot of extra time built into our schedule to do all of this, but I can see the beautiful richness that it would add, and so I wanted to include it. You can also study the time period, which is what we often do. We just add it into our history lessons, and that's the time period when they lived. But you could do the same thing and incorporate this into your geography lessons as well, and it would be rich and beautiful that way as well. You could even go so far as to make a meal from the country that they predominantly lived in or were from. I think that would be a fun way to do it as well. Yeah, you could even do some fun family nights. So yeah, I'll get into some more of that in a minute. But the next thing I do is during the time that we are planning to study this, which is during morning time on Mondays, we take a few minutes, I mean literally a few minutes, and the first week, because each painting hangs for 2 weeks, so the first week I might have the children explain the picture to me. Tell me about the picture, what you see. And then I might have them do memory recall that same week, which is where they look at it for a long time. I might even have these on separate weeks. It really just varies. And so memory recall, though, is another thing you can do. Memory recall is when they look at the picture for a given amount of time, maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then they put the picture away, and they have to tell you as much about the picture that they can. They have to describe it to you. The pictures that we use have the time period, the year that they were done. They have the artist's name and the painting name, so we include that as well. Some of them will point those out. It's interesting to see what they find or what they remember. Some of them will remember the big things. Some of them specifically look for the tiny details so that they can pick out something that nobody else would say. And we just go around a couple times and they tell me things that they saw. I have so many kids, so we don't go around very many times. That's like 15 things already. But if you only have 2 kids, you could go around and around and talk about it for a few minutes, but really only about 5 minutes is what this allows. And then the second week, that might be the week that we have them explain the picture, because that is the week that I'm going to have them recreate the picture. Okay, this is a little bit tricky because sometimes this is looked down upon. Like if you have them recreate a famous artist piece of work. And I don't see it that way at all, because we have studied lots of artists, and to truth be told, after studying lots of artists, I have found that many artists did the exact same thing in studying how to become famous artists. And so they did the same thing. They would go to art school and study and recreate pictures or paintings that other famous artists that were successful had created. And so we do that as well. For a long time, we started out that way naturally. When my youngest even was in kindergarten, I have some books I'm going to recommend next week for you guys that you can use, and some resources for doing this. But I got away from it because I had seen that it was, I had read some stuff and it was false, but it had said that it was hindering them with their own creativity if you allow them to recreate other artists. And anyway, further research I have done has shown me that that's not true. And that's actually how most painters became painters, is they would literally go to painting school and recreate pieces of work that other famous painters had done. So I think it's totally fine. Now, there's a couple different resources for doing this. Like I said, I have a couple resources I'll talk to you about next week, and I will link that video below. And, but yeah, easy. You can just get online and you can print, like type into the Google search bar the name of the picture and to color at the end of that, or to paint, and or coloring page next to the title of the painting, or next to the painter's name. You can Google that and it will probably bring up some of their more famous works. So it's super easy. Another thing that we have done is I have my kids' journals that are blank pages, and I'll just ask them to recreate what they see in the painting, and they honestly prefer that to painting it on their like after, like with an outline painting. They prefer that because it's more freedom for them, I guess. And so you can do it that way as well. So that is literally the 8 steps that we use for picture study. Like I said, I'll go into resources and all of that next week, but just to review for this video, choose an artist. We like to do one artist for 12 weeks with 6 pictures from each artist. So 2 weeks per picture, if that makes sense. I hope it does. And I select 2 pictures from each artist, 3 terms in a school year. So 18 pictures, 3 artists. Okay. Then I put it on display in a prominent location. I gave you guys some examples. We learn about the artist's life, their either via book or online bio. We study the country or time period that they lived in, just briefly. I let the children explain the picture to me. We do memory recall, where they look at the picture for a few minutes and then put it away, and they have to try to remember what the picture was. And we do recreate the picture from scratch or paint a line printout of it. That's it. That's it. This seems like it's too simple to be successful, but that is not true. The truth of this is consistency, and your children are exposed to prints regularly. Your children are exposed to practicing painting regularly. Your children are exposed to memory recall, so they are improving their memory during these things. And there's history, there's geography, all of this is built into this, and it seems like it's too simple, but it really isn't. And it doesn't take more than, I would say, besides recreating the picture, like 5-10 minutes a day tops. And picture study is done, checked off in the book, and it's done, and it's easy. So don't make it more than it needs to be. Like I said, I have resources I'm going to share with you guys next week, and I will link that video below once it is created. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this. If you have some awesome artists that you think we should look into for next year, I'm already starting to plan. So let me know who they are. We're going to be studying creation. I don't know exactly how far, but around that time period. So if they fit into the time period, bonus points. If not, but they are pictures of things in creation, that is also good. If they're pictures of Bible stories or something like that, also a bonus. So yeah, that basically wraps that up, guys, and I will catch you guys next time.